332 of student assignment for this year.
Of the 3-year plan.
Of the 3-year plan. For the media that is here, no decision will be made during this work session. This is still information only. With that, who wants to run with this?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So as for the board work session today, we're just bringing an updated presentation with the specific decision points that we'll be asking the board to consider in preparation for the adoption of the enrollment plan. Right now, it's planned for December 6th, and depending on how the conversation goes today and what the desire and will of the board is, we'll see where that goes. I'm going to turn it over to our folks to do the presentation, and just wanted to alert you that we did post a revised presentation in eBoards. It's got the word revised at the beginning of the title, as a question came up about a similar accommodation for Hortons Creek 4th graders as Mills Park 4th graders regarding the grandfathering options.
So it's revised and we should have it.
Yes, you should have it. It's the second item. It's titled, the first word is revised.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We started this process back in February, if you'll recall, at the board retreat. Then we met with you again in May for some direction, and here we are, almost to the last step, with two final decisions we'd like you to think about today. But before we get started, I just want to tell you one little thing. Yesterday I got to the office and was informed that I won a reserved parking space for the 2007 year. I don't know when I've ever been so happy.
2007?
17.
Oh, those things are
2017.
I want to know, did you know that there was a pool to win the parking
I
space?
did not.
That's the
I did
17
not.
So it just happened.
So it goes from January 1st to December 31st. But remember.
That's messing with you, isn't it?
That is. That's what about their retirement?
October 1st, I will raffle off the remaining.
Raffles are against boycott.
Ms. Evans, you need to flip that over and read the fine print on the back. You cannot retire for as long as your reserved parking space is in effect.
Oh, funny.
Now, what we wrote on that time, Mr. Bacon, was winning this space means you can't retire.
I just wanted to say just how I was actually very excited about that. If you leave this building during the day, you will circle around like a hawk, following people, stalking people until you can find an open space. So I was pretty excited about that.
Wow. Oh, boy.
All right. Back to the
Congratulations.
Yes. And just as a promo, it was
part of the
an outcome
United Way.
United Way campaign for the
Yeah.
district. So
Yeah.
People
I don't know
give.
why I didn't tell y'all to give to my nonprofit. I should have sent y'all all personally. What was I thinking?
All right.
Congratulations, Laura.
Thank you. Now to be serious. So, I appreciate you letting us come back to you again today. We do
That's kind
have,
of you to say that.
we do have two things we want to talk about. We put it on the very first slide. Two decision points today. One has to do with that group of 4th graders who will face a reassignment in elementary school and a second reassignment in middle school, because we're opening a middle school in 2019 in this same area. I've been asked, didn't this same thing or isn't this same phenomenon happening with the opening of River Bend Middle School? But I've checked it every which way, and in fact, it is not the same. Because Beaver Dam opened this year, and River Bend opens next year, and Hortons Creek opens the same year as River Bend. So there's not a group of children that will be impacted with that double whammy of an elementary and a middle school assignment change. So back on November 15th, we brought to you a couple of options. One was to keep this group, who we can easily identify who they are, keep them together as a cohort in 6th grade. And then as they move to middle school, they'll have been together, and it would make that transition a little bit easier. And then the second option we brought that day had to do with the opportunity to grandfather. But when I wrote the option, I made it very specific. So 4th graders who experienced a change of assignment from 4th to 5th grade could also grandfather when they got to 7th grade. Opening a new middle school, we only grandfather 8th graders, okay? And so this would be a special provision just for this group. And then that created some discussion among you all that some of you weren't sure that you wanted that extra provision that the experienced a change in assignment. So we added option 3. So that's a decision point today. And then the second decision point today has to do with reducing the crowding at Mills Park Elementary School and utilizing the brand new building that we're opening up at Hortons Creek Elementary. And so we brought you a little more information today, and we're here to answer questions. Mike is with me, and Glenn is with me, and Kathy, of course, is with me. So let's start with decision number 1. I don't know, I can tell you the number of children involved. We did actually calculate of who is eligible to grandfather and their siblings, okay? Related to the changes. Basically, these are the students being moved from Mills Park to Hortons Creek. These are those numbers because I was so focused on that. But Ms. Kushner emailed and said, oh, don't we have the same group, or Susan did too, don't we have the same group of 4th graders being assigned from Alston Ridge to Hortons Creek? So whatever you decide today, if you make some kind of special provision for this group, it applies to 4th graders at either school, Alston Ridge and Mills Park Elementary. So I tried to change the language to be sure that everybody understands. So. But I only have the numbers for Mills Park.
Hold on, we got a question already?
Oh.
Mr. Fletcher?
No, I was, about the younger siblings. I'm thinking back to a previous time when the decision matrix was that students would move to the new school, or we would make an assignment. Help me out here. That the challenge is that the grandfathering that's currently in place will actually take 6 years or longer for this move to have its maximum impact on the sending school. That seems...
Depending on siblings.
Yeah. So it's not just the siblings in the school today, it's the sibling who's a 3-year-old today. If there's still an older sibling in that building, the 3-year-old gets there as a kindergartner, their grandfather. That is something I don't want to look at it necessarily in this particular context, but that's just stringing this thing out forever. And not, while it's not a transportation impact, it certainly is a negative to trying to manage capacity. And it has some implications, perhaps, maybe not in elementary, but where students wind up changing schools and they don't know anybody even though they're in the same neighborhood. So family moves in. I mean, it's just...
And the capping concern. I mean, we may not be able to remove the cap on the school.
Right.
If it remains.
How many kids, if there are 182 that are capped out, that's remain capped out. But in the grandfather group, how many are there?
Eligible to grandfather is 146.
Okay.
If
Which
you
is an
count their
entire
siblings.
grade level.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, so that
But that's
146.
just for Mills Park.
That's just for Mills
Right,
Park.
that's just from Mills Park.
So that 146 are students who are at Mills Park,
Yes.
who are eligible to grandfather,
fourth and
rising
fifth
4th
grade.
or 5th graders.
And then the siblings that go with those
And the
4th and
student,
5th
and
graders.
those 4th and 5th graders that have already.
That are currently enrolled, right.
currently enrolled siblings. So that's what the 146 includes, the 4th and 5th graders and their currently enrolled siblings at Mills Park.
Right.
And to Bill's point, that grandfathering might still continue if those 4th and 5th graders have younger siblings who haven't entered the school yet.
Correct.
Because those younger siblings will stay grandfathered.
Correct.
At this point, it applies to the
It's a lot
family.
like the choice plan, it
Right.
kind of goes on for
So
a
long
while.
as there's
Until
a
it
child
doesn't.
still enrolled when the youngest one shows up.
And would it likely be a correct assumption that the number that would be eligible from Austin Ridge would be higher?
Yes, because the group from Alston Ridge to Hortons Creek is larger.
Is
Yes,
larger.
yes. But we're focusing in on the 4th graders, okay? And at Mills Park, the 4th grade number is 40, okay? And then I didn't separate the siblings out from 4th and 5th graders, but you know, it'll be less if you're just looking at the 4th graders, okay? So what's your sense of what you'd like to do?
Yeah, again, we're looking at doing this so that a child does not attend 4 different schools in 4 years. That's the issue.
Right.
The difference between option 2 and 3 had to do with, option 2 was very tailored to those who chose to move, because those 4th graders can grandfather, right?
Right.
But there was some concern that some might not choose to grandfather or might, yes. And that we should just include all of them rather than dissecting those who chose to grandfather or not. Even though for some it will mean you have the potential of 2 changes, 1 change, or no change in a reassigned area, as opposed to Laura's proposal, the first option on the table, would result in 1 change. Option 3 allows it to go from 2 to 1 to none for an area that's being reassigned to a new school.
And without transportation. So the only,
Yes.
the main impact is whether or not we have overcrowded school because we are allowing grandfather.
So option 2, we're going to identify the kids who actually do go to Hortons Creek as 5th graders.
Correct.
Earmark them to be eligible to grandfather Mills Park Middle for 7th grade,
Yes.
only them.
Yes. And that would be both at the
That might
Mills Park
encourage them
Elementary
to go on to Hortons Creek.
and Alston
Mhm.
Ridge children, both
Mhm.
schools.
Can we say that
I encourage
again?
them going to Hortons Creek, but then
For 5th grade.
the consequences of that is if they choose to stay at Mills Park Middle,
They could. They would go to Mills Park Middle for 6th grade and they'd have the option to stay when
so
M16
the
kids.
impact on the new middle school
Yeah, but
becomes what? When you're letting all these kids stay?
It's a small number.
It's a
Okay,
very small
okay.
number.
Very small number.
It's a very small number.
Okay.
So,
I-
is what you said written in there somewhere? I want to.
I was just clarifying
I want to get that
that option,
language.
that I was clarifying that what the staff intends under option 2 is that only the kids who did go ahead and go as 5th graders to Hortons Creek Elementary, and they did not exercise their grandfathering option for
At
next
Hortons
year.
Creek, okay. I mean, at Mills Park Elementary,
Or Austin Ridge Elementary.
right.
Only those who go on and go to Hortons Creek as it's the rising 4th graders for next year. It's those that go to Hortons Creek as 4th graders next year willingly would be the only ones eligible for grandfathering at 7th grade under the option 2.
Right,
That's what we're debating.
right.
And I know I was one of the ones that was questioning some of the things, probably the reason why the option 3 ended up there, but now that I personally think about it, option 3, we're basically saying, well, you can grandfather 4th, 5th grade, and you can 4th grade, and you can grandfather at 7th grade if you want to. That's basically the difference between 2 and 3, and personally, I would lean towards 2 at this point, because then that at least might encourage some folks to go on and make the transition to Hortons Creek, in which case they would have transportation, at least for elementary school, and so forth and so on. That's my thoughts.
Now, is it,
Well, so you must have read my book. So it's like,
They'll take their siblings with them.
I want to be real
That's-
clear.
that's
You have to say that.
I think that's important.
that's what I'm saying. You have to
So
say
again,
Dad, I want to be real clear. What I said at the beginning, no decisions will be made today. But you're wanting a thumbs up or a direction of where this group is recommending that the board go? Or just what are we looking as the outcome of today? Or are we just clarifying information?
So in the best of all possible worlds, we would have a decision on the 2 pending areas so that we can incorporate that direction into the final draft that will come to the board for approval. If there is a sense among the board members that either additional information or time is needed, then we would have to work through that.
Okay, so today we are looking at a clear direction of what will be in the final plan that will be up for a vote on December the 6th.
Consensus feedback.
If we could
Option
get
2.
I,
Yeah.
with clarity that siblings go too.
Well, that's the beauty of it. They obviously, they don't have an option otherwise.
Well, that's a,
Well, we have to say
that's a
that.
function, that's the highest priority in
Yeah.
our assignment process. Should that happen, that a student who chooses to go to Hortons Creek from either Alston Ridge or Mills Park then goes to Mills Park for a year and chooses and would like to stay at Mills Park and not experience another change. If during the duration that middle schooler is at Mills Park, another one comes along to Mills Park Middle, that's the highest priority. It's a sibling priority that we have.
All right. Bill was concerned about the length of time that this could stretch things out. I think the numbers would be very small, but how long can this really stretch out? Because we got hit in the heritage area with people claiming that we have, in essence, legacy families because they've got a kid that is in 4th grade, and so when they're moving to 5th, that gets their kindergartner in. The kindergartner's in 4th grade, and there's another one that's coming in, and it just kept going on and on.
Can I
we
just
limit it, or-
clarify that I just don't think at this point in time, we can change the overall grandfathering rules.
Okay. Well, I'm just,
Because he's saying grandfathering rules, not what we're talking about for these 7th graders, but all the other pieces of what's in place for.
So I think what I would say
and
about
I
that.
think those numbers
yeah.
are small.
So I think what I would say, and we did look at the numbers, they're small for this particular group, but I think if that is a question the board has, we will come back to the board, we come back to the board late spring, right near the end of the school year with priorities for the next year's enrollment plan to get feedback from the board on areas that you want us to bring additional information on. And certainly revisiting grandfathering rules could be one of those.
And just how far out does it really go?
Right.
so am I hearing that you would like to incorporate into the final enrollment plan, option 2 for this group of 4th graders when Mills Park Middle School opens up? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right. Okay, then the other decision, the easy one is over. The other decision, of course, revolves around opening a new school and relieving crowding at Mills Park Elementary School. And you had asked us, back in draft 3, we presented you a couple of different scenarios. We presented, I don't know if you have your draft 3 in front of you there, but we presented the draft 1 that we proposed, who should attend Hortons Creek out of Mills Park Elementary. And then we gave you a second scenario that said if nobody left Mills Park Elementary to go to Hortons Creek, what would the numbers look like? And then you asked to see the scenario, what if Blackstone and Amberley and Cary Park subdivisions remained at Mills Park? And we gave you those numbers in draft 3. But that generated one more scenario you wanted us to bring you, and so this is on page 4. What if just Cary Park, the part that's north of the lake, remained at Mills Park Elementary? So
Not the
Mike,
townhomes. that are-
not the townhomes, just the part north of the lake, the single-family homes. And Mike has generated this new chart and turned it to you.
It's ready now.
Okay,
Do you want me to?
yes. Do you want to shoot it
See
to me
what
by
it looks
email?
like.
or-
I did.
You already did?
I did.
So I need to pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Susan showed us a correction. You want to put the,
So this is carving out only Mills Park from,
The north.
only Cary Park from the original recommendation.
Leaving it at Mills
Just that
Park.
yellow part.
Correct.
That's in draft 3, just this yellow part. So it's gonna have this funky shape.
Well, we're not recommending it yet, we're just asking
I'm
the
just saying
question.
it's gonna have a funky shape.
Can't take them out, that's what the density is. Or something like that.
This was, yeah, I have draft 3 up. This is from
That's it, Laura.
15. I know, that's what I got. Wrong with these things.
Correct. That's it.
we need to say that we found an error on the slide in the presentation. I apologize. I feel like,
Well,
I
it's
feel
fluid.
like the errors we've made have been hurtful to y'all, and I feel really bad about that. It's just enough confusion when we talk about base numbers and residential numbers, and then we have an error on it.
And I think part of it last year when we were looking at the Heritage Rollsville High School, because we weren't looking at base residence numbers, that was something we needed to look at. So I feel like we're trying to
Closer.
to
diligence.
refine our due diligence. So
Yes.
I think
We
that's part of it,
definitely-
Laura.
We definitely, or I feel like you guys have certainly are digging deeper and deeper into the projections that we use, which is, I think, is a good thing. You guys are very, you educate yourselves very well. Okay, so we made the switch from base attending base to residential because we wanted to show you that the latest 2016 numbers are actually projecting more students than what we've been showing you, but it ended up causing a little bit of confusion. I feel really bad about that.
Well, the data that we have is 2012 data. We're not looking at 2016 data.
Right.
But in the assumptions that staff has applied with Mr. Miller's assistance, that increased student density has been applied to an old set of data that suggests that we've got a bigger problem than this data presents.
Right, that's all we were trying to show you, but we actually haven't shown you the data yet, because we just finished our last meeting with Wake County staff this morning, where we will now generate that final report for you and
Which is at
present it
least
to you
60
in
days out.
January.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
all
so
that-
So we kind of jumped the gun on this, and that's caused some confusion too.
And all that, those numbers there are base residence assignment data. It could include kids who are capped out at Mills Park or not. So that Mills Park line includes kids who live in Mills Park, attendance zone, that are capped out and attending another school.
Absolutely.
correct?
It's the
Okay.
residents.
Or
Right.
attending
It
another
includes-
by choice.
It includes
Or
everyone
the
attending
retention
a
by
Wake
choice,
County
correct.
school that lives in that base.
Yeah.
Let's say,
Okay, it does
Okay,
not include
so-
private school, parochial school,
Correct.
homeschool.
but,
These are
but Wake
kids
County
enrolled in Wake
Wake
County
County-
that
Wake
live in
County
that
schools.
base.
Okay.
Yeah, right, it
So-
could be at a magnet or something else.
So this is the scenario you asked us to bring back. What if we didn't split that Cary Park at the lake and just Cary Park were to remain at Mills Park Elementary? Okay, Mike,
That's
turn it
correct,
to you.
yes.
So what what numbers did we need to correct?
The updated slide is on the screen. We'll have to update it in the materials.
So
Mills Park.
we don't have that on our drawing.
No, I'm looking at the same one, there's a few numbers different.
Mills
You're gonna have
Park
to read
and
'em
Hortons
to us,
Creek.
'cause I
Yeah,
can't read
can't
'em.
see it.
If you send it to me.
Okay, so the only ones that are different from the presentation that you have are the line across from Mills Park and Hortons Creek. So I'll go from left to right.
Okay.
All right.
Fine.
Starting at Mills Park Elementary, planned capacity is 846, that's the same. Actual 2016 is 1280.
There are 1,280 students there right now?
No,
That's
Living in the
1,200 in the
80,
base.
living
As
in,
residents.
not
but
the
there
attending.
are,
They're not attending the school.
but right now attending are over 1,000?
I think so.
Yeah, let me finish reading this, the numbers.
929 are
Excuse me.
currently
Okay, so
attending.
third column,
The third column is the 2017-18 forecast, assuming that Hortons Creek takes a piece of Mills Park. That number is 1070. Yeah. The next number is 2019-20 forecast, 1014. Next is 2021 forecast, 1053. And the utilization ones were miscalculated.
That's what you're saying.
First utilization for 17 is 126%, and for 2021, it's 124%. That is correct. White Oak is the same. Moving downtown to Hortons Creek, the planned capacity is 872. Jumping to 2017, this is a forecasted number for Hortons Creek. Inside their base, there'd be 998, 2017. In 2019, 1,061. 2021, 1,128, 1,128. Corresponding utilizations are 114%, 129%.
And your utilization factor is, you're just dealing with, how are you calculating that?
It's the residential numbers here divided by that planned capacity.
Okay, but that's not students in the building.
That is correct.
So if 80% of those students are in the building, or 75% are in the building, the utilization number is closer to 110. Okay, so it's not severely overcrowded. If anything, less than 100% attends, which we don't have 100% anywhere in the county.
This part of the county.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, so.
in most
and-
parts of
And
Kansas.
we're expecting that were the cap to ever come off Mills Park, it would be at 85%.
Yes.
It will not
Yes,
reach
or
that number
higher,
so long as the
yes.
cap is on it.
I think my latest base percentage was actually closer to like 87%.
Okay, all right, so if we say 85%, that's 15% less students than the residential number. So that's 100, call it 170 students. So you're under 1,000, you're under 1,000 students attending the school in 2021. Okay.
So I want to show you just one more chart before you get into the discussion. Your eyes are pumping on your head. Just one more chart.
Laura,
And- yeah.
if I could ask, I want to make absolutely sure I'm not misinterpreting something. So if I'm reading this right, and I'm looking at the far right-hand corner, 2021, the very last column, I can't read the very top line, but I'm showing 124% for Mills Park and 129% for Hortons Creek. So at that point, Hortons Creek is more crowded than Mills Park, although we've left the Cary Park people there.
I think that, and Laura can explain this maybe better than I can, but one of the pieces of information that we've put in the plan is that with Alston Ridge currently being multi-track year-round and barring a change, remaining multi-track year-round, the calendar option that goes back and forth between that and Hortons Creek, because they are calendar options for each other, provides an opportunity to ensure that those numbers actually don't go that high.
And Tom, I want to restate, those are not children attending the school.
Right.
Those are children living in the base.
Right.
And some percent of them will be in the school building. So I don't see that as it's not the utilization number we're used to looking at.
But
It's a
I think
different number.
again,
But it's
this is
comparative.
what's, this is what's causing
Right.
a lot of headaches, because we've got a group of people claiming that our own numbers
Yeah.
are suggesting that if we move the Cary Park kids to Hortons Creek, that all we're gonna do is shift the cap from Mills Park to Hortons Creek, because Hortons Creek will be, at that time, even more.
But that's the part that Kathy just said. We can manage the numbers at Hortons Creek as they calendar to Alston Ridge. So we do not anticipate that Hortons Creek will be overcrowded.
But that's the point that we need to help people
Okay, well, that
understand,
hasn't
is
been-
what is the relief plan?
Right.
And looking at the residential numbers obfuscates that.
And probably the same with the Alston Ridge projections for their utilization, because there are gonna be folks who prefer that calendar,
Yes.
and vice versa.
Yes.
And again, to Mills Park, that number doesn't include the cap students or the grandfathering students.
Right.
I mean, there's that part of it in the actual utilization that I think we need to think about.
And the same with White Oak. It looks like before long we'll have a cap on White Oak. But remember, we have another new elementary school on the horizon that's going to be just south of White Oak that will take care of that, what that appears to be overcrowding. Okay.
What school is that one? Apex Friendship?
Big
Apex
Kids Friendship
Friendship.
Elementary.
Yeah, I wouldn't take care of it without a lot of shuffling down the road.
There will be some.
Dominoes.
Yeah, a lot of dominoes, glad I won't be here for that.
So
A lot of
let me-
new,
Screwed that up.
So, we're focusing on those two schools. There also seems to be a disparate impact on Alston Ridge over time, where the student numbers in the base in 2019 are significantly less than its current capacity. So why is that something we would want to have happen? Is it happening as a result of our plan, or is it happening because people are aging out? I mean, we're looking at 851, residents in the base, currently 65% of the folks in the base attend the school.
Which one are you focusing
I'm looking
on?
at Alston Ridge. It's the year-round calendar, so it makes sense that there'd be a lower percentage. So 65% of the Alston Ridge base living enrolled students attend Alston Ridge School. Their projection is showing that number to be 831 or 851, I can't tell, in 2019. Why is that something we want to, why does that make sense given the scenario that's on the table?
Those numbers are a result of that preliminary E50
Okay.
scenario. So at this point, we wanted to have some idea where E50 was going to draw from, which schools would be impacted. And the reason we used it in here is from that scenario, it looks like E50 is primarily going to impact Alston Ridge with some other impacts to Carpenter and Cedar Fork. So at this point, I think the E50 scenario is very preliminary. It's just to see where it's going to fit in. And it does impact Alston Ridge a little bit. That's by no means a final impact on what Alston Ridge could be.
I don't have the map in front of me. There was a map that had
That's
one of the,
round one.
a community outline adjacent to Mills Park base, there was, some folks were saying, send them, not us. Is that the part of the community you're talking about?
No, sir.
So where is that group? They still at Mills Park?
The one that's currently in this scenario that involves E50, that community is assigned to Carpenter.
Right,
in-
they're going to be.
During the E50.
It's Cameron Pond.
That's right.
Currently assigned to Mills Park Elementary.
Right, over there.
Staff
But we're gonna be
envisions it
moving.
going to Carpenter.
Okay,
when
so it makes sense
E50
not to
opens.
move them.
Right.
Correct.
To Horton
One
Creek.
Second
That was
time.
the idea. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you just one more set of data.
Go back.
Promise it'll be the last.
Let's go back to your slide.
Oh, wait, go back.
And again, we're looking at the screen, not
Yeah, we don't
anything
have
we
that.
No, you have slide 5.
Yeah.
Slide
We're
5.
going back to slide 5 in your
Okay.
presentation.
Oh, okay.
Mills Park facility utilization.
And this is based on students, not residents.
Correct.
Students in the school.
This is
Students in the
Yeah.
school, not residents.
All right.
So it's a different,
So we're not talking about
Data
growth.
set.
We're not talking about student generation numbers. We're just talking about what's in the school today.
Right.
Okay. So the first chart, with the gray header says, there are 1,042 students who attend Mills Park Elementary today. Okay?
And its capacity is 846.
846. Capacity is 846. There are 182 students capped out today. That number grows every week. So if those 182 could attend Mills Park Elementary, they would be at 144.6% crowding today. Okay? Now the second chart uses our draft 1 proposal, okay, where we assign the 200 some students to Hortons Creek. Those are the red numbers that you see there. And then I've also included the eligible to grandfather numbers, okay? So if you bring back the overflow, send the kids to Hortons Creek, and everybody grandfathers, Mills Park would be at 134% next year. This is aging them forward. 134%. That is with our draft 1 proposal. Okay? If nobody grandfathered under the draft 1 proposal, next year, Mills Park would still be at 116.7%. I put this up there to show you that we need to reduce the population at Mills Park Elementary. It's a really tough decision, though, to make who needs to go. Okay? And that's where we are today, trying to make that final decision about who needs to go. They're crowded. We are opening a brand-new school. It's going to be nice. I don't know who the principal is, but I'm sure they'll be tops. And by this time next year, they'll be showing videos about how wonderful it is. You know how it's going to be. So,
it'll be awesome.
are they going to do the owls?
No, no, no.
We already
No,
stole
no, no,
that.
no,
All
no,
right,
no,
got that. We can't do that.
It'll be
But something
awesome.
simple.
It'll
I
be
just want you to
awesome
say-
like.
Stay
How about
focused.
that?
These are real numbers, solid, on the ground today. Okay? So we
And-
still have that second decision to make.
And under the current grandfathering, the 33 fourth graders, rising fourth graders, and 40 rising fifth graders are eligible to grandfather. And plus any of those other students in red that are the siblings of those 33.
Yeah, and I've listed the siblings there. They're in the black, right
They're in the black
there.
underneath.
The 19, 19, 11.
Oh.
Fourth grade show more that are eligible for grandfather than are assigned. Those are the ones that are not assigned. 33 and 40.
What did you ask me?
A simple question, and I'm sure you have told us the answer, but I'm not recalling. How many total kids are we looking at moving from Mills Park to Hortons Creek?
228?
228?
And how many of those live in Cary Park?
Got that number. I think it's 40, just a second.
I mean, we've talked about it.
43,
I'm sorry?
43 live in the Cary Park north of the lake. 42 actually attend Mills Park Elementary.
So 223 kids,
228.
228, and we're really arguing about 43 of them.
Two classrooms.
Well, and there's the Blackstone people too. So now you asking about both or just Cary Park?
Okay, so how many in Blackstone?
68 students, 61 attend Mills Park Elementary.
Okay.
So still.
Then you have this
61
little
for
island at
Blackstone and
Bloomsbury at Cary
46
Park
for
that
Cary
we
Park.
are.
Yeah.
And
So our options are to move them all, to move all on but Cary Park, or to move all on but Cary Park and Blackstone,
Or move none of them.
or,
Or move none of them,
yeah,
you know.
sure.
So I was the one who actually asked you, whenever we were together last time, I don't know when it was, to look at the Blackstone separate from the Cary Park. And I appreciate having that to look at, number-wise. But I will say, for me personally, I took another ride out there. I rode up and down all the streets. And I could not now support that separation because there just is no negligible difference from when you're in one of those neighborhoods and when you're in the other.
Okay, and that was my question, was
So,
how did Blackstone
even though I
get
asked to
included
see
in
these
Cary
numbers
Park?
separately after going out and physically looking at the area again, and knowing that we've got this Bloomsbury or whatever the other area is that's the townhomes to the east. I just wanted to say that while I was the one that asked for this breakout, after looking at it, I don't think geographically or otherwise it makes any sense to separate this little piece of Cary Park from Blackstone. They feel like one neighborhood when you're driving through there.
So you're roughly saying the 100 of them would be.
It's kind of all or nothing in my
Okay.
opinion.
Well, because you have
That's
someone,
That's
your
just my
back door,
opinion,
your
but-
back
No,
door
that's what I'm
there.
asking.
Well, but again, that, I was gonna ask that question, say, thank you for answering, is how did Blackstone get incorporated into the Cary Park? Because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah,
So that's roughly 100 students.
I thought there might be a more definitive line
Because
between the two.
I could
There is not.
support easily not moving 43 kids. It's a real issue when all of a sudden we're looking at half
Now
the
we're at
move.
about half of,
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, Blackstone sits to the northwest and is more proximate to Hortons Creek than Cary Park, so you could make that justification, but I did just want to make the note that the two neighborhoods, you can't really tell when you're in one or when you're in the other.
And you have
Previous
someone
pre-
whose backyard goes to one school, and the, I mean, folks who,
Which is
it's,
very-
it's splitting the line, it would
There are
split the
two
line
streets
between.
that they actually share, you might know.
But,
There's the-
help me with this. I am making an assumption that may be an error, that we've got other places throughout the county where we have tried to keep, I'm not sure established community together is, I'm not sure established is the correct word, but an identified community together when there's another identified community right next to them that backs up to them. I mean, there's gotta be a line somewhere.
well, we just did it.
So what, other than geographic proximity, what makes Blackstone a part of the Cary Park neighborhood?
Well,
other than
the one
geographic?
thing that I would say, the Cary Park PUD is quite large, but you've got this first piece, that's this initial piece, as soon as you come across Green Level Church Road, and it sits right there on the right. And Blackstone sits right there. But then there's the lake. It's the lake that almost geographically puts Blackstone in with Cary. You have to go across the lake to the other side to get to the rest of Cary Park. So it's
But
really
does that
kind of
indicate,
unusual.
and again, see, I don't know the neighborhood, does that indicate that Blackstone, and for lack of a better term, I'm gonna call it North Cary Park,
Well, it's,
but I'm just doing it to refer to a geographic area, are we saying that they're more involved with each other than Cary North and the,
And the rest of it, and the rest of Cary Park.
because, see, we looked at a neighborhood somewhere up in North Raleigh one time where we were using some major utility lines to divide it, and you came back, no, we talked to people and they really do, regardless of geographic boundary.
you know,
And that's the
I
difference in
can't
the
speak
neighborhood. I
for
mean,
the
right,
residents,
people
but
can
my
follow.
observation is that it is just exactly what you were saying. It really feels more like the Blackstone and this one most eastern piece of Cary Park are more,
An entity,
They consider themselves a
connected.
neighborhood.
and then
What
the
for-
other
for
part of
lack of
Cary
a
Park
better
is way on the other side of the lake.
which I guess my real question is, so do we need to keep that part of Cary Park and Blackstone together, either all at Mills Park, or send Blackstone to Hortons Creek and the Cary Park to Mills Park? To me, that's the question. Because
Then
I'm
you
not
do
gonna
have-
have any more heartburn, well, I'm not gonna have heartburn anyway, over 43 kids. But if we're talking 100 and some, that's a very different.
I mean, we
scenario.
could separate them, but it's also, if you go out there, it's not like there's this entrance into Blackstone and this entrance. It's the same roads. I don't know how it ended up that way. Apparently, there was a piece of property that the initial developers couldn't
Yeah.
get hold of initially, and then some, but they're the same roads. It's the
Yeah.
same ingress and
You wanna look at
egress.
the map?
It's
This
not,
Blackstone of Cary Park.
You wanna look at the
yeah, if you were to ask me,
Yeah.
you know, but it's just
on
two different
Drive
sets of
3.
developers.
This is what it looks like, and then we have this island of Bloomsbury that's very high growth,
But
being on its own.
I'm not
And that's
saying-
hard to, we have similar maps in older neighborhoods. I mean, if you look at some of the assignment areas in District 6, there are some very odd shapes, and they are very difficult to explain to people. When you have little pockets that you've carved out. And they were carved out for reasons, but as time goes on and things become much more fluid and there's so much growth in this area, those odd shapes are really difficult to explain to these residents.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to oversimplify very complex issues. But to me, the first question is, should we keep Blackstone and this little bit of Cary Park together? And if so, that leads me to say, well, we don't have much of an option but to move to Hortons Creek. If we're willing to separate them, then I'm back being comfortable leaving that sliver of Cary Park with Cary Park. I mean, y'all correct me if I'm oversimplifying.
So I think-
So my last
yeah,
remarks
I
are
think-
this, I wouldn't put up a fist to separating them. There is some rationale, like I said, for the fact that Blackstone sits more to the northwest, moves closer to Hortons Creek, and Cary Park sits more to the southeast, closer to Mills Park. You know, so you could go with that justification, but then you've got the Bloomsbury area that sits to the east of Cary Park, which makes it complicated. And then,
And I think all the numbers that we just looked at, the actual overcrowding that's going on in Mills Park, the capping that we've had for that many years, is very inefficient. And I think all those numbers are we're gonna, because of the grandfathering that we have established to give stability to the families that are already there. And with the growth in this area, I feel that the folks who have come to us, a lot of them will be able to grandfather. And it is, so I think we need to focus on relieving the overcrowding at Mills Park and filling the new school.
Well, and see, the fact that so many of them can grandfather actually splits them up even more.
Correct.
And we've left them some choice around that.
And with the grandfathering, they'll be able to have, the folks who are there will have that stability. But going forward, we need to relieve the Mills Park, and that capping number at kindergarten is what is alarming me the most. And
Right.
because the capping, we have to, I think capping is very inefficient for the school system. And I think it creates more ripples of problems that we then lose,
Yeah, we take.
that we lose a lot of efficiency.
All right, and I agree with all that, but I still have a couple of questions. So if Blackstone is moved, Cary Park stays, can the cap come off?
I really want you to look at the map.
If both of them move, the
Really
cap
want to.
can't come
Well,
off.
sure, sure.
Not right
Both
away.
of them?
Not immediately,
Not immediately.
but I'm with Ms. Kushner, that's for me, that's the call, I get it off of there.
I'm sorry, sir.
I just want you to look at that. Don't give you any comment.
Well,
This is
she's
Ca-
concerned about this
is
red area.
Blackstone,
Okay,
and that's Cary Park North,
yeah,
and that's Bloomsbury and Cary.
okay.
Which we're
So
not
you-
talking about
You leave that
changing.
yellow, you know, you weird shape that I think is hard to explain. I mean,
That's not to say we couldn't though. But I think the other reasons
But
are
I think-
more,
But you have this.
the crowding
going
is
to one
really the
school,
issue.
you get in a
I
very
think
big yard,
it's
going to
school.
another school, and then you have.
New
School, we got the,
New school needs students.
that's right.
I mean, I think
So
we've
you're
got to
saying-
be diligent.
That's why we get the big bucks.
Yes.
That's right.
The map.
It's not, but
But I think the crowding is more of a concern. I agree.
And these folks are gonna be able to,
See the map.
go ahead.
Well, some.
Would you like me to put that map on
Where
the
is
screen,
this?
you guys?
Yeah,
Slide.
I don't know, I don't know.
I'm,
it's
I'm not
page
looking at that.
6 of draft
I'm
3.
looking at the student generation per unit numbers for the previous. It's not.
Okay.
It's not, it's not in this, it's not, it's not.
I
in
know,
the-
but I'm really alarmed at I'm alarmed at the cap. When I was looking
I
at
agree
this
with
and
you,
I
Chris.
looked and I kept looking and I kept looking and it just, capping, it makes
and one
our
of our
buses
goals
run
has been to
inefficiency.
do away with capping wherever possible.
And not to just feel like we're
And
gonna
it's
have
up
the
here
same.
if you want, if that helps.
And Mills Park schools sit down and to the right.
Yeah, about right, about right there, I think, is that right? About right
And
there?
Horton's Creek sits up and to the left.
So there's Cary Park.
Here. This is the,
What's that?
that's the northern part of Cary Park, this is the lake, this is Blackstone. These are the two neighborhoods they're talking about.
And it's that area across that stays in Mills Park this year, but is projected to go to E50 in the coming year. So it would isolate, so my concern about having, I mean, I really think Bloomsbury would become like a little island.
Right here.
And to your point, I don't think we create the islands.
Right.
We don't have to.
I obviously won't be here to vote on it next week, but I have tried very hard over the last several
Yes.
months to dig into the data to understand any other compromise solutions that will relieve the crowding that we have at Mills Park right now that must be relieved. And I've gone back and forth and, but it is my personal feeling at this moment that I don't think we have a better scenario than what the staff is proposing. And also, while I'm mentioning crowding, I received an email from some of the folks in the area that acknowledge the fact that Mills Park has been operating in this very overcrowded mode for a while, and they seem to be doing okay with that, so why can't we leave it like that? So I think it's important for us to address that. I think the parents may think that that's been going okay, but it's extremely stressful for the staff. And one of the things that happens that I know of for sure is when you're trying to put more students than the core facility of a campus can accommodate, and the cafeteria can accommodate, then the media center can accommodate. One of the most obvious things that happens is we have kids having to start lunch at a very early time and go till a later time. We probably have to have 5 seatings of lunch at Mills Park Elementary. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. So those are the things people need to understand that we're trying to
Issues
solve.
with circulation at arrival and dismissal.
And I remember, I'm speaking off the cuff, and I don't know how any of this is happening right now, but I remember the Mills Park Elementary principal telling me at one time that he had to take this was several years ago, his school counselors out of rooms that they had, everybody, to make space for classrooms, and that he had support staff like that operating in hallways and so forth. And I do want to note that one of the things we haven't discussed in these sessions recently, just so the public understands, one of the reasons why we ended up with this base overcrowding these schools, in addition to the fact that it's a fast-growing area, is these base areas for Mills Park Elementary and Mills Park Middle were drawn with the intention of being four-track, multi-track schools.
Right.
And the elementary school opened as a four-track, multi-track school, and then was changed in 2010. And that's when the principal and I talked that next year, and he was telling me, you know, his 4th and 5th grades were so big, and that's when he was having to, you know, just get very creative with what he would do with the classrooms. So there are real issues here with this kind of crowding, and we have not tampered with that base attendance area since it was initially drawn in 2008, 2009, where it was drawn for 2 multi-track year-round schools that have now been operating on a traditional calendar for the last 6 years. So that is a big piece of this scenario as well that people need to understand.
And again, I was raising those issues because there are issues that keep coming up. Being a former principal of a school that had 1,700 kids, and although it was year-round, it had a capacity of 13 something. Yes, you make it work, because for one thing, everybody wants to be there, so you make it work. But yeah, I can remember going and making literally closets into guidance classrooms and making book storage rooms into computer labs and, you know, just all kinds of things. The building needing to be painted, and half the time that buildings are normally painted because of the wear and tear on it. All kinds of things breaking down much sooner in the building than you were anticipating. And people tend to forget that in our pillows is efficient use of our buildings. The fact that moving these kids will get us quicker to lifting the cap at Mills Park. The fact that you've got, we've added a grandfathering clause to try to help them with the stability piece. The proximity is a wash. The academic achievement is a wash. So to me, that would put me at this point, because I'm convinced it's not good to split these 3 areas, leave some at Mills Park, move some away. Then the only way to begin to approach the kinds of numbers we need at Mills Park is to move them on. So my recommendation would be to keep it in the plan.
And I appreciate the fact that the staff has helped us dig deeper into the data, and I appreciate that my colleagues have been looking. I mean, we have struggled to find other solutions. But these utilization numbers, I think, the students who are already in the school and already living in the area are real, and they're growing.
Well, as I said at the last meeting, because we all do have hearts, and we don't just look at utilization
We try very
numbers.
hard, be sure.
We try very hard.
Yes,
It's
thank
very
you.
hard to keep going to the citizens to ask for money to build schools if we're not going to make the hard decisions to fill schools up when they open. And I hate to say that, but it's,
I mean, that is the, we gotta fill the
Yeah.
school.
Monica, Bill, any?
No, I'm in agreement.
And I want to say just to reiterate, one of the other things that we talked about earlier, one of the things that was causing me some heartburn, and I know it was causing some community heartburn, is how it was looking like in a few years, Hortons Creek could be more crowded, if not as crowded as Mills Park. once you've clarified what we'll have going on there between Austin Ridge and Hortons Creek being counter option schools for each other, and that those numbers will not likely shake down like that, makes me more comfortable. So I did want to just reiterate that.
How far away is the new elementary school that comes on Apex Friendship? How far away is it?
Time-wise or
I don't,
distance?
it's not funded yet, so we don't know.
It's a hike.
It's a hike, so there'll be a lot of
And
dominoes.
that's for
You're
White
gonna-
Oak.
So
you're
it
gonna
will be a
go-
That's for
you're gonna
White
go
Oak.
past
That's
White
for
Oak.
Yeah.
That would be dominoes
So
for
we're
White
not
Oak.
seeing that as a
No.
potential outlet to
No,
relieve
not for
some of
Mills
those
Park.
problems.
E50 is gonna be more the,
Yeah, E50's
Yeah.
pretty close by.
And E50 is how far away?
2019.
19.
In other words, this is gonna keep on going.
Oh,
Yeah.
As will the growth.
I was about to say.
Well, that's what
based on
I mean.
the growth,
I mean, it's
people
I'm
are-
looking at all these pink zones that Mr.
Don't know
Miller
where
put
you
on
can
our
find the land to build
map.
districts. So, at this point, a thumbs up to keep the draft plan.
So just to recap our two decision points, under the grandfathering guidelines for the fourth graders, we're going with option 2,
Correct.
okay? And then under the pending decision about reducing Mills Park, we're going with draft 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for making the tough decisions. All the time you put into this, I really appreciate
And
it.
last, all of these are gonna be quality schools.
Oh, yeah.
There's no
absolutely.
doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when we looked at the academic achievement numbers,
throw a blanket over them.
That's right. We're not in-
Can't
They'll be
talk.
so different, I mean, so similar, you won't even know. the difference.
exactly.
Well, the schools will have different personalities, but the,
And the families and kids.
But
But
the
the performance,
outcome is
the
gonna be
performance
very
will
much
be
the same.
very much the same.
Okay,
Thank you.
that was the only
Thank
item we had on the work session.
That's it.
Dita, what-
Today.
Okay. So we've got about 25 minutes. Do we go ahead and go into close and start the next?
are we gonna have anybody else?
I
Let's
don't
get,
know.
let's get everybody.
Anybody else
Keep
come?
this down in one day. And y'all saw the email I sent out this morning, I
I just sent, yeah, might as well.
haven't.
I mean, with our first group's at 5:30, right?
Okay.
Including
Yeah.
your-
So, I need somebody to make a motion.
Oh,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, please. That we go into closed session to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143-318.11A1 and GS 115C-319, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege under GS 143-318.11A3, and to consider the performance of a public officer or employee under GS 143-318.11A6.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are now moving into closed session. Thank you all.